morning, or good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jerome, and this is Psycho Silver. I do hope that today you're counting your wealth in ounces, and also that you're holding your word, especially to yourself. Thank you and welcome. This is a news show, and I'll be covering news regarding precious metals, the dark psychology of money, geopolitics, any kind of news that I find interesting. I'm bringing it to this show. Also, the ruthless reign of the dollar, with the dollar milkshake theory proven out to be true as it terrorizes the world with higher bond rates. There's chaos everywhere right now. And also, we'll be looking out for what the future has in store for us. Will there be a CBDC? Or will there be a great awakening in time to resist the banker's plan to put us all on a smart currency for the smart world? Join me. We're about to jump into the news, and I worked very hard to collect the most interesting news for you and put it in a nice little package. I spend hours every night going through everything and finding the most interesting material, and then I bring it to you here on YouTube. So hopefully I will have done you a service and you do enjoy this program. But before I talk too much, let's just jump in and see all this interesting things that I found. All right, guys, let's jump into the news. I got some good stuff for us. First article I have here is from, well, I did find it on Reddit, from the economics subreddit. And this is an article here. San Francisco is adding a single new public toilet for $1.7 million. The author, who is it? John Sexton, he writes, I've already written about San Francisco once today, but this story is too good to pass up. The city is celebrating the decision to add a new public toilet to Noe Valley Town Square. I've never been to this particular part of San Francisco, but the photo above shows what it looks like. In any case, the state of California is now buying this little spot for $1.7 million. Another public toilet in a city with far too few of them is excellent, but the details of this commode, they're mind-boggling, they're maddening, and they encapsulate so much of what's wrong with our city government. The toilet, just one loo, and 150 square feet of space, is projected to cost $1.7 million, about the same as a single-family home in this wildly overpriced city, and it won't be ready until 2025. Assemblymember Dan Haney secured the $1.7 million from the state for the toilet after hearing loud and clear from the community that families need a bathroom. The plumbing is already there. It was added when the plaza was constructed 6 years ago, but there was never any money for the actual bathroom. Haney asked the Parks and Recs department how much it would cost to install a single toilet in the town square, and they told him $1.7 million, even though the plumbing is already in place. How is that possible? Well, it turns out it's not the guys turning the wrenches who will be making all that money. It's all the many cities' functionaries and contractors who get a piece of the pie along the way. It's hilarious. An architect will draw the plans for the bathroom. The city will share that with the community for feedback. It will head to the Art Commission's Civic Design Review Committee, comprised of 2 architects, a landscape architect, and 2 other design professionals who, under the city charter, conduct a multi-phase review of all city projects on public land, ranging from buildings to bathrooms to historic plaques, fences, and lamps. Oh, they're reviewing the fences and lamps too, okay. If the new toilet makes it through that host of highly paid professionals, then it has to go before Parks and Rec Commission and the Board of Supervisors. And only then, if all those people approve, it will be put up for bid. And of course, only union contractors have a shot at the work, which means that it'll be pricey. But all of this is seen as necessary to maintain San Francisco's values. A company called Public Restroom Company just installed 7 bathrooms in LA for what San Francisco is paying to install 1. And these bathrooms have 2 stalls, and here's what they look like. Oh man. There are several other design options available with all the same basic floor plan. Best of all, Chad Kaufman, the CEO of Public Restroom Company, said he could have 1 delivered and 1 working in San Francisco within 8 months. Meanwhile, the $1.7 million toilet isn't expected to open till 2025. All right, I've had enough of this article. That's pretty freaking funny, but what are you gonna do? That is San Francisco. That was good for a nice little chuckle. Let's get this going here. Here we have a tweet from the real Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki, and I do like to review his tweets often because I know he does have the ability. He kind of penetrates the mainstream a little bit more than other sound money guys. He's very famous. And he can really pierce through, and I like that about him. Right here, he writes, "Bye-bye US dollar. Saudi Arabia officially joins the BRICS. In 1974, the US dollar became the petrodollar. The day after Biden pulled out of Afghanistan, the Saudis began negotiations with Russia and China." Really? The day after Afghanistan? Interesting. Saudi officially joins BRICS. The US dollar is toast. Buy gold. Buy silver. Buy Bitcoin. Biden crime family is destroying America. Sad. Next up, we do have this funny meme from Wall Street Bets here. It says, "Inspired by recent options purchases that didn't pan out." And here the cartoon says, "Buying short-term Tesla calls like I learned to trade during the pandemic." That's good. Let's see if there's any funny comments on that. One user writes, "Wall Street Bets in a nutshell. I learned to trade during the pandemic." One user writes, "Is this bad? I'm considering doing this myself." Oh, this guy here is teasing his friend, and his friend says, "Reporting for duty." Please report to the nearest Wendy's dumpster for work. I thought that was a really funny cartoon. Okay, on to the next thing here. Here we do have a tweet from the Macro Tourist. He writes, "Swiss September gold exports. It's 174 tons, 48% year over year. By destination, number 1 to China. We know they're buying up gold. Number 2 to India. 35 tons to India." Interesting. So they're buying up the gold and the silver in India. Turkey is stacking gold, 32 tons. Is that tons? Yeah, that's tons. That's a lot of fucking gold. Is that right? Yeah, seems right. Holy shit. One thing I do know that inflation is really bad in Turkey, and the bonds are out of control in Turkey right now too. But I guess they're doing something right. They're getting some gold. And we have Thailand, the Emirates, and Singapore. He writes, "Turkey became very gold hungry." Oh, and there's Saudi Arabia too. So they have that black gold, and they're starting to stack the yellow metal. That's probably mandatory. You're going to join the BRICS, you got to bring the gold. They will be formidable. Here we do see here Swiss gold imports from Philippines. So Philippines is selling a shitload of gold. Swiss gold imports from USA, 4th largest in history. And there's all our gold going away, going to Swiss, going everywhere. Should be going into our personal safes at home. Here we did have the Black Swan tweet. "Crazy to me that everyone isn't dumping stocks here. The DXY, yields, etc. I have no idea what's even keeping people in stocks at all." And Don Durit responded, "I agree. The overall market is delusional at the moment and continues to believe we will have a soft landing. Most people are lucid enough to see what's coming, but Wall Street has its head stuck in the sand." I had to make a point on this. And my point is that I believe part of the reason the stock market only goes up is part of the reason. This isn't the whole reason. Because definitely the psychology of a whole generation of people that have never freaking even lost once in the stock market is at play. And people are going to have to get hurt to learn. But I do think there is a good deal of passive investing in the stock market. There's people that have their 401ks from work. It goes into a mutual fund. They don't even know what's going in there. They don't even understand it. And I see this for myself. And it all gets invested in these mutual funds automatically. So every week, because of the automatic 401ks that people are enrolled in at their jobs, it's just like taxes. They stick it on your paycheck unless you really interfere. So you have buyers for the stock market every week coming through those mutual funds. And I would dare to say, I can't back this up, but I would bet on it. I'd fucking bet on it that there's never been more passive investing in the stock market. People that are just on autopilot with these mutual funds doing whatever the fuck they want. That's what I think. What do y'all think? Here we had a tweet from Michael Gayed. He writes, "In 2008, the Sharpe ratio for the S&P 500 was negative 1.84. In 2022, the Sharpe ratio for the US aggregate bonds is currently negative 1.98. Bonds on a risk-adjusted basis have performed worse this year than stocks did in 2008. The bond market is the event. Wake up. It's a total mindfuck. It is the dark psychology. And even the guys that maybe some people do, like they do have trust in Trump, or You know, they do believe that the Republicans can do better for them. But here's the thing, too. Trump did it all the time. He convinced so many people that the stock market is the economy, and it's not the economy, not even close. And the thing is that it's these bonds that have given Americans their way of life, right? It's insane how fast these bonds have moved. Here, I found this really interesting video. I want you to watch this video. This is really good. Let me put this on the big screen for us. Okay, this should do it here. Get it on the where we can see the whole thing.
Have you recently eradicated an old friend?
Let me start over. Wait. Okay, here we go.
Do you find yourself arguing with strangers on the internet all the time? Have you recently eradicated an old friend or family member from your life because they keep posting wrong ideas? Ask your doctor if steel manning the other side is right for you. Steel manning the other side is the latest breakthrough in cognitive technology to help those suffering from algorithmically amplified rage and hatred. We took the tried and tested method of steel manning, where you use the strongest arguments you can think of to fight for your own point of view, and then applied that same methodology to the other side's point of view as well. To the people who we disagree with.
Since I started steel manning the other side, I became so much better at understanding why some people think different. I don't always end up agreeing with their conclusions, but at least now I can empathize with why they're acting this way.
Hey, Aunt Sally. Yeah, I know it's been a while, yes. Well, anyway, I just wanted to say I've been thinking about it, and I realise you might not be Satan incarnate after all.
Yeah. Our natural tendency to fall into ideological tribalism is currently being exploited for profit by vast media corporations. And that is why we're seeing this epidemic of R that we're seeing today. So talk to your doctor about how steel manning the other side could help you. Because life doesn't have to be this way.
Steel manning the other side is safe to be used by anyone regardless of age, gender, or political comorbidities. Side effects include, but are not limited to, reduced blood pressure, clearer thinking, a more diverse friend group, a longer attention span, happier family gatherings, more time for physical activity, greater empathy, increased focus, a deeper understanding of the world, and better informed decisions.
Do you find yourself arguing with strangers on the internet all the time? Have you
I do
recently
hope you guys
eradicated
appreciated
an
that. I thought that was so good. All right, here we have another tweet from the great Marti. He's doing some more technical analysis for us. And he writes, this is the US 30-year treasury. This no good. This bad. This very not good for equities. 4.8% should come very quickly. Let's have a look at this technical analysis here. Well, that's an interesting pattern. We do see that is a really decisively straight trend line up right there. And we did rise out of this megaphone pattern. And it really does look like sky's the limit, especially with the Fed insisting there will be no pivot. There'll be no pivot, not till 2024, and that they're going to be hiking rates even faster. So can we believe that? Not really, but that's what they're saying. And so it appears to me that it's destined for 5. He's only going to 4.8 here, but to me, it's going all the way to 5. And this pattern is pretty, these lines that he drew here are pretty interesting. It's wrapping right around that. So I think that's some good, clean technical analysis there. What do you think? Here we have another tweet from Michael Gayed. We did the double Gayed tweet tonight. This guy's on fire. He writes here, going to keep saying this until it sticks. The bond market volatility, if it continues, is the end of the financial system with over 300 trillion in global debt. Your portfolio is worthless if this continues. That's why it can't. The end of the world is the bull case. Melt up. Really, these bonds, the bonds are it's the biggest thing in the financial world. These bonds are like freaking continents, right? They're so huge and they're supposed to move slowly, the bonds are. And yet they're moving very quickly. What does it mean if a continent, if a huge formation, like this huge piece of mass is moving quickly? I don't know. That means destruction, right? It means earthquake. It means, I don't know what it means. It means something bad, though. They're not supposed to move quick. And also, he's alluding to here, when he's saying the end of the world is the bull case, melt up, I do believe that he is calling for the pivot to occur at some point. Here we have a tweet from High Heat. This is one of my favorite Twitter accounts. 2020 Upstream writes, after touching 31 trillion, America has already amassed additional 226 billion in debt. And here's a good quote. He writes, Anyone who believes exponential growth can go on forever in a finite world is either a madman or an economist. That's by Keith E. Boulding there. And that is just an excellent, excellent quote. And we've looked at a lot of freaking charts on this channel, and we'll continue to look at, we'll be reviewing the same charts. And what's crazy, what's trippy, what's unbelievable, what's astonishing, what's impossible, what's incredible, outlandish, what's preposterous is every single one of these freaking charts they're all going straight up parabolically, one chart after another. It is unimaginable. It is unthinkable that so many charts could be moving up at the same time. How this ends? Well, I think we also end up coming down very steep on the backside of all these parabolas. Okay, next thing up. Here we have a tweet from Rafi Faber. And I do hope someday I can get Rafi on my show. That would be so awesome. I like this guy. He did write that we just passed 4.2 on the 10-year. And that is the story of the day. The bonds took off again. And he asks, can we get to 4.3 before the end of the day? Some central banker better start printing fast. Come on, guys, make it go brr. Yeah, and Rafi is of the opinion that the Fed will be forced to pivot soon, which means they'll go the route of Bank of Japan, they'll go the route of Bank of England. They will stop the hikes and they will begin printing money again. And he believes this next pivot will be the last pivot. And when we do pivot, we'll have the melt up, we'll have the devaluation of the currency, and that'll be that. Whatever comes next, if it's the CBDC or whatever comes next, we go to a gold back standard, it'll have to be something. But the BRICS look like they're going to do gold. And so how are we going to convince, and maybe we're not trying to convince anyone, but how are we gonna do here's our digital unlimited supply secret currency for all to use, and then you have these other guys over here like it's just gold, it's gold back. That's not a very good deal unless you don't really have a choice, right? We will see. On to the next. And I did have to include this on the show, and like what I wrote here, let's all have a nice hearty cleansing belly laugh as the halfwits at The Economist announce what we all already know. This is good. Booming cocaine production. It's a suggestion that the war on drugs has failed. Why, that's quite a suggestion there. Now, I like this. Now, some politicians in Latin America and Europe are saying so publicly. Coca is ubiquitous. Coca is ubiquitous in remote rural parts of Colombia. Farmers plant the hardy, high-altitude bush, harvest its foliage, and sell it in bulk to small local laboratories they have made in the country for the world's biggest producer of cocaine. The pickers, known as the Raspaniches, are mostly poor migrants from Venezuela or elsewhere in Colombia. Their hands are often shredded and bloodied by their labor, which involves ripping the leaves off the stalk, as it pays more than cultivating most of the legal crops. And even being on the bottom rung of these drug businesses confers a certain amount of glamour. I'm a raspachin, a Triller singer writes in a jaunty hit from 2015, and I get all the women. Oh, thank you. I suspected that this was true, but when The Economist wrote it, it became official. Okay, on to the next thing. Here, I did find this interesting article. I thought this was RT, but it was not RT. This is Press TV, and it does seem like it's some sort of, oh, look, it tells you right there. It's an Iran affiliated news outlet. And I love reading the ones I'm not supposed to. If I'm not supposed to read it, I want to read it. But here we do have the article is simply titled, Russia says U.S. blackmail over fertilizer exports disrupts global food security. And once again, this just is from Iran. And I don't feel like reading this whole article because I did read it and it's not super interesting. But the gist of the article, the only reason I wanted to bring it to you tonight is because they are really making their case that Russia says it's prepared to supply fertilizer, it's prepared to supply food, that they want to make special arrangements and open corridors to supply food to the world, and help stabilize the prices, especially of the fertilizer. But they're saying that basically the U.S. has gone scorched earth, so to speak, in doing everything they can, not just to win financially, that they're not just trying to win financially, but they're trying to burn them down, that they're really trying to destroy them, even if it means taking a toll upon yourself and your allies, in this case Europe. Iran and Russia in this article are really, it sounds like it's a plead, like it's directed towards the European Union and these European countries, letting them know like, hey guys, America's really fucking you right here. They're really fucking you good. So don't blame us when you're hungry. And with all the speculation about the pipeline, which is not in the news anymore, but I did hear the speculation that Nord Stream was blown up to prevent the surrendering of Germany. Germany cannot surrender. They cannot concede when there is no more pipeline. Who needs enemies when you have friends like that, right? Interesting shit. This is a great article. I'm going to read most of this. Roadside cameras stolen in Sweden may end up in Russian drones, says media. A wave of high-speed camera thefts in the country is allegedly linked to ongoing conflict between Moscow and Kiev. Sweden has been hit recently with a wave of roadside camera thefts. Up to 100 units reported missing. Cameras of the same type have been discovered in Russian drones operating in Ukraine. Local media reports suggesting the occurrences might be linked. The affected camera, they're speed cameras, and they're equipped with Canon brand digital single lens reflex, the DSLR. Cameras of the same type have been found by Kiev troops and captured Russian homemade drones, the newspaper reported. And I don't, they call them homemade. They're probably just trying to disparage them, but maybe they are like homemade. They're stealing cameras from them, right? Swedish security service said it's aware of the alleged link between the disappearing cameras and the purported discovery of units of the same type in the Russian drones, but declined to provide any comment. We have no opportunity to go into more detail or talk about our intelligence work, said the Sweden official. Here we go. This is important right here. All in all, the 100 speed trap cameras have gone missing in recent months. The thieves appeared to seek only the cameras themselves, leaving the other systems, electronic equipment such as radar. The wave of thefts has already inflicted heavy damage on the road surveillance system, as replacing one camera costs around 250 krona, and so that's $22,000 per camera. So that seemed like that's something that's worth stealing. Interesting. On to the next. Here's a really interesting article, and I don't know how we missed this because it's already a few days old and it's super relevant to all the things that I look at. It says LME Clearinghouse runs down default fund and Bank of England stress test. And so we do know that LME stands for the London Metals Exchange. The clearinghouse of the London Metal Exchange ran down nearly its entire default fund under stress tests of its base metals service, says the Bank of England on Thursday. The LME was forced to halt nickel trading and cancel trades in early March after prices more than doubled to 100,000 per ton in a surge sources blamed on short covering by one of the world's top producers. Central counterparties operating in London are a key part of the global financial system's plumbing due to their role in helping clear trades between major financial institutions. I don't know, long story short, I can't really say that I understand this, but the gist of it is that in a stress test, the London Metals Exchange appears that it can be super stressed. It seems like they can be pushed. They don't reveal the details of these stress tests, but they're showing that there's vulnerabilities there. And they're telling you how much money is involved. It's only $2 billion. And of course, $2 billion is a huge amount, but this is a metals exchange. This is a global metals exchange. And so there's no reason such a huge institution can't have funding. So my assumption, they don't explain it. This is very opaque. And it's interesting that there's even an article about this. This seems like a roadside flare or something. Someone's letting someone know that there's something wrong with this. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that? This is a message out to other people that could understand this message, in my opinion. This is not for you and me. This is for the people that would be able to read between the lines there, but it appears it's not an issue that they need more liquidity. It appears to me they're letting the powers that be know that there is an issue in covering the underlying assets, the metals in this exchange. And that's the threat of a default. Not that they need more billions of dollars. I think that the money is incidental. It's not about the funds itself. There's something else going on here. That's my take on it. But please correct me if you have a deeper understanding of this. I thought this was very important. This is a Saudi Arabian website, and it's the Al Arabia News. And I've been really liking this website. There's a handful of non-American based websites like RT. I've been looking at the Citizens from India. This one's from Saudi Arabia. And the one we just saw, I already forgot the name, but it's really like, at least for global finance, checking out these foreign news agencies and news websites is really worth it because they're doing some actual journalism there. One thing that I've learned about cruising Twitter, about cruising Reddit, and even if you go to like Google News where the American news is aggregated, it's all copy and paste. There's very few original pieces out there until you go to other countries, and then you'll see them reporting independently in the sense of like their article is not going to have to be about the same flavor of the day that every other article is when you scour the US news. And I've learned this the hard way because it can be a little difficult you would think that there's unlimited amounts of news out there, and there's kind of not, because everyone is just copying everyone. And even on Twitter, it can be a little difficult to find a fresh take because everyone's talking about the same thing and they all want to jump on the trend because they know that people are searching trends. And it really does become an echo chamber. But this is one way around it. We can first look at foreign news agencies, but then also it's always worth your time, in my opinion, to not just study the area that you're interested in, but study the areas adjacent to that. And then if you're good at doing your little research, you can really connect some dots there. But let's jump into this real quick. I only had a couple points to make about this. Here we do see Iran personnel in Crimea helping Russian war on Ukraine, according to the White House. The White House says, we assessed that Iranian military personnel were on the ground in Crimea, and they assisted Russia in these operations. And this is according to spokesman John Kirby. Tehran is now directly engaged on the ground through the provisions of weapons that they are impacting civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. The United States is going to pursue all means to expose, deter, and confront Iran's provision of these munitions against it's against the Ukrainian people. Yeah, they're attacking the people. We're going to continue to vigorously enforce all U.S. sanctions on both Russian and Iranian arms trade. Well, they're just, I suppose they're natural allies now, right? And I was mistaken for the longest time. Iran is not officially part of the BRICS, but they're adjacent to the BRICS. There's speculation that they will apply to join the BRICS. And what this this is what this article really makes me wonder, though. What are the odds, if not Iran, then Belarus, or who? China? There's a myriad of nations that are adjacent to this conflict that could become entangled in the conflict. And who knows through what means? Is it going to be because of drones? Is it going to be because of satellites? Is it going to be because of missile and missile defense system? There's all these different ways. I mean, if it is like boots on the ground, then that is like a direct threat that you suppose that they have to address. But there's all these technologies that are not directly warfare, but when it comes to damaging, destroying, or countering important systems like the satellites, who knows who can get involved and how. I've seen a lot of speculation that Belarus will be involved, and not just because of the troops amassed in Belarus, because there is Russian troops amassed in Belarus. They're speculating that there could be an attack from Belarus south into Ukraine, boots on the ground, but that one of the pathways to really nasty weaponry being used Is Belarus taking first action and launching some sort of something at Ukraine? And of course, everyone already, there's no way to ever even know the truth anymore. It's always self-defense. That's what you have to say. And who knows if there is operations against the Belarus government or the Polish government. And I'm sure we all know Iran's been under attack from the West for a long, long time and vice versa. So everyone is always going to blame everyone else. But at what point do you get escalation? And in what way could that manifest? Could it even be drones? I don't know. But that is something to consider. And we do see these BRICS gaining strength, kind of looking like World War I and World War II, where people are taking sides. And depending on the strength of the commitment that they make towards one another, who knows what we can become embroiled in. And I just really hate, it bothers me, very concerned about the whole situation with the Saudis. And we've been supplying the Saudis with technology and weapons. God knows what they know about us. Just seems like the Saudis are such a fucking terrible enemy to have. That's like, I don't know, what is that like? It's like one of your best players is joining another basketball team and now they're gonna know your whole playbook or something like that. Is that a good analogy? It's like your best basketball player just got traded to the rival team, and they know your playbook. They know your coaches. They know your players. They know how to irritate you. They know your weaknesses. They know your practice schedule, all that kind of shit. Kind of feels that way. It's concerning. Here, we will always be paying attention to platinum. Platinum is important to me. This is the canary in the coal mine. If silver does not blow first, it'll be platinum that blows first, in my opinion. And we do see this chart here is simply the creator writes platinum appears to be at an inflection point, and we do see this massive formation here. I do believe this is called a bearish. This would be a bearish pennant, and there you have the little flagpole and into an ascending or maybe a slightly descending, if not pretty straight, triangle formation that goes pretty far back. This is a huge formation. This is a daily chart, so we've been stuck in this tight little range for quite a while on the platinum. Let's read a couple comments here. Johnny Buckets writes, just bought my first ounce of platinum. And someone responded to him, I did too, about 1 hour ago. Definitely, but it's still below the 200-day moving average. We want to see it break above the 200-day moving average and break above its descending wedge pattern that goes all the way back to February 2021. I like this comment. He says, in my opinion, it's inevitable, Mr. Anderson. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. This user writes, if platinum and rhodium were not priced as high as they are, the platinum miners would be pure base metals company. $900 platinum, and the whole industry goes bankrupt without palladium and rhodium. Interesting news. Interesting. Thanks for that take. Who is that? Apsco60. Do we want to see BitBoy Crypto lose his mind here? He was pretty mad, guys. Let's check out this little clip from Cryptoland here. The fight, there's fighting going down in Cryptoland.
Ryan Sean Adams. I don't know who the F you are because you're not important. But here he says, please, dear Lord, and any lawmakers or adults reading this tweet, just know BitBoy doesn't represent us either. Talk to Jay Stravinsky. Talk to Miller CWL. Talk to Coin Center. You know what? We are tired of people that look like this guy trying to run stuff. I don't represent the people. The fuck I don't. I'm the one who does. It's me. I'm the one out here putting the work in behind the scenes trying to save crypto while these devils, Sam Bankman-Fried, Brian Armstrong, they're trying to permanently ruin it. This is not about money for me. I hope you guys understand this. I am here fighting for you. This guy with these freaking glasses on, this douchebag, is out here trying to tell you that only the suits know what to do. Only the suits. Only the people who have all the money, they're the ones who can determine what happens. No, our bill is for the people. And you're going to find this out. We've got the funding for it, and it's coming out.
Everybody is always for the people. That is one of the ways that they bullshit you to no end. And I'm not saying this about BitBoy. I don't really know the guy. I've checked out his YouTube a few times. He seems like a genuine dude, but I don't know. Everything's marketing these days, and they're all for the people. They're all protecting the people. Every one of them. It's a brand. It's a brand.
This guy right here, Ryan.
They all say it. Every celebrity.
I don't know.
Every rapper. And now all the crypto people are always for the people. They say all kinds of crazy shit. Like we're gonna bank the unbanked. 1/3 of the world just doesn't even have internet, barely electricity. And they think that Bitcoin is about to bank the unbanked, guys. It's crazy. But all those places that don't have internet, 1/3 of the world, you can believe silver is money in those places. Here, really quickly, I just wanted to point out, this is a tweet from Albert Hearn, and he's got the golden Pepe frog. He writes, Federal Reserve liquidity swaps. The list keeps growing. Nothing to see here, I am sure. And we have Bank of Japan, Swiss National Bank, and European, the ECB, with huge amounts of dollar liquidity swaps. So they need to get their hands on some dollars. And I really don't know like too much what this is about, but they do need dollars. Someone explain to me, or we'll look that up next time. What is the deal with this? Why do they need to go through the liquidity swaps? And what is the alternative for obtaining dollars? This is an important question. Here we have a tweet from Bob Coleman, and he writes, or he asks, are shares of SLV still being shorted? The following chart shows daily short volume relative to total volume. In most instances, the short volume is near or greater than 50%. Compare this to Tesla, heavily shorted. Short volume is close to 40% on Tesla. So this SLV is being shorted heavily. And I did do an episode about this recently, where we had a look at First Majestic during the height of the silver squeeze early of last year. We did see First Majestic get monster short positions, and it was at the same time the squeeze was well underway, and we did see the insane amount of metal delivered to the COMEX into their vault overnight, and we did see the shorts just appear out of nowhere, some of the biggest shorts you ever seen, but they did that to First Majestic too. And I want to say that it was around like 40 or 50%. And I would like to go back to that chart sometime and just have an eye of what the shorts on First Majestic do look like. Because they are, I mean, certainly out of the mining industry, they're the most shorted equity day in and day out. And I'm sure a lot of you know this, but we're just going to keep pounding the drum on this one. Bill Gates is the largest buyer of farmland in America. He spent over $300 million on donations to media outlets, invested in major corporations, big pharma and energy, all of which receive very little government oversight or media scrutiny. And he really does he does all this and they don't bat an eye, do they? Could you imagine if it was like Kanye West or Big T45 that was this involved in big pharma and farmland and paying off the media, and they just don't mind when it's like, when did he become our leader? It's just tolerated. I don't get it. And that's another one that I bring up to my friends and people that I know, and they just got nothing to say. It's not even no comment. It's just, I don't know, some sort of lack of recognition, some sort of fear to get involved. Is it that they're afraid to question authority? What is that? Okay, let's go. We got a few more things here. We do have this tweet from the Magic Poop Cannon, and he does write, this goes back to this is in response to an article that said the Fed's Harker sees lack of progress on inflation and expects aggressive rate hikes ahead. He writes, this goes back to my chart that showed how high the Fed would need to hike the Fed funds to suppress inflation. If rates were well above 4% by year's end, that would require an increase of at least 60%. 30-year mortgages would surge over 10%. And we didn't really have a good look at silver today yet, but we have our awesome charts done by Michael here to give us the metrics on the day. We do see zero net change, no change on the registered silver side, which is very odd to me. I mean, it is an exchange. They're not exchanging. So is it zero because they had no exchanges today? Or is it zero because the exchanges just magically equaled out to zero? Very bizarre. I suppose it can happen, but that's just odd. That's odd to me there. And we're also seeing another 1 million ounces out of the vault. And what I'm learning to keep an eye on, just as much as anything else is this percentage of registered silver. It's at 1,793%. At this rate, we'll be at 2,000 in no time. And so we're, at least me, I'm keeping an eye on two things here. I'm keeping an eye on the registered, and I'm keeping an eye on that open interest percentage of the registered. I suppose the total vault matters too, but I'm not looking at that as much. Here we have a tweet from Rafi Faber. I do hope that someday I could get Rafi Faber on my show. He writes, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's rock. The 10-year rate has just crossed 4.2. The low during the 1998 Asian financial crisis was 4.1. 24 years of money printing reverse in less than 3. Come on, Fed. Push the panic button. You know you want to. Just do it. It's okay." Rafi is of the opinion that the next Fed pivot will be their last, and whatever comes to be of the US dollar, we find out after this next pivot, and we do get the out of control inflation, and that'll be the end of the road somewhere therein. That's his opinion. And so whenever Rafi speaks, I listen. So I do believe that they will make that pivot probably sooner than they're saying. So maybe by the end of the year, and then we get to find out what's next. All right, just a couple more charts to go here. Here we have another post from the Magic Poop Cannon. This is an important one. He writes that Bitcoin is looking pretty bearish on the daily chart. After breaking down from that huge bear flag, Bitcoin has rallied up to a hard resistance confirmation and is now forming an inverted Adam and Eve below the flag, below the 200 week, and below the 2017 all-time high. Not a good look. So those are 3 key levels there, and Bitcoin is falling against those levels. Not good. Sounds like we're on the precipice of another leg down in Bitcoin, which I expected, but it's looking pretty real at this point. And here we have some technical analysis from Ponzi Finance, another good clean chart. He writes, "Updated as of today, the S&P 500 inverted cup and scandal pattern." And there we do once again have very plausible outcome. Got these arrows down, and I can certainly see it, giving the trajectory, giving the fundamentals, giving the support and resistance presented here. We're well under the moving average, and the next support's going to be at 3,400, and the one after is at 32. And I think we're going there, and probably lower than that, unless we do get the pivot before we hit those levels. And who knows if there's some sort of crisis, non-financial crisis, that does cause the pivot before that. The great Marti writes, "Inflation is going to rocket in Japan. The Bank of Japan owes 70% of Japan's debt. LOLOL. LOLOL. All right. And for the last thing, I got 2 more things. We'll do them both real quick. We do see here, reported by Reuters, former Celsius exec joins JP Morgan as director of crypto regulatory policy. And so this guy is Aaron Levine, has joined JP Morgan and Chase as executive director of digital assets regulatory policy. And he had a very similar position at Celsius when it went under. And over at Celsius, he was also the director of digital assets and and regulatory policy. Same, very similar titles at both Celsius and now JP Morgan Chase. And they're criticizing how we did have Jamie Dimon criticizing cryptocurrency, but he's hiring the man straight out of the crypto markets. I have no feelings one way or another about this, but it does illustrate the revolving door between crypto and now mainstream financial institutions. We see these revolving doors all over the place. So I guess the stench of failure from Celsius, the implosion at Celsius, the decay, the misadventure of Celsius, the miscarriage, non-performance of Celsius was not enough to prevent the hiring of this Aaron Levine into JP Morgan Chase. Very interesting. See, you can fail and still find success afterwards, can't you? Good to know, guys. Good to know. Okay, here's the very last thing of the night. I felt like you needed to see this. Check this out. This is really interesting. Hopefully there's no naughty music playing on this, though. That's the only problem. This says, the morning has turned Black Mirror by paying energy bills as a prize.
Black Mirror by paying energy bills as a prize.
As well. So this is energy bills, I think, for 4 months if it stops on that.
Nice.
So how are your energy bills? Are you a bit worried about it?
Major.
Yeah.
Are you?
I've got one of these prepayment meters and it's absolutely murder.
Right, well, let's hope it lands on one of them.
Whatever, you're going to win some money, so
Here we
don't
go.
worry. Here we go.
One way or t'other. Here we go. Round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. Da, 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 da. £1,000 or energy bill. £1,000 or energy bill. It is going to be... It's your energy bill!
Oh my God, thank you.
We're paying your energy bill for 4 months.
That's pretty freaking dark,
This
guys.
morning has turned Black Mirror by paying
That is
energy
pretty
bills as a
freaking dark.
But hey, these wolves really look friendly.
The last great bubble is faith in the central banks, and it's popping. Man, I would love to get this guy on my show someday. He's got some of the most compelling tweets out there. And with that, I do thank you for spending some time with me today. That was a long show. There was a lot to go over. I worked so hard to package this all together to bring it to you in a format that's interesting and engaging. And I do see the need to find a way to format this material a little bit more where you could skip through and find the parts that you like. And so maybe I will be making shorter videos, or I'll start utilizing the cards, which may take me quite a bit longer to process the videos and get them posted. So I'm not completely sure about how I'm going to do that yet, but it's on the agenda. And with that, I do thank you for coming along with me for tonight's episode. And I do hope that you are in good health. And if you're not in good health, I hope you feel better very soon. I appreciate you, and I'll be back very soon. You have a good evening or a good morning wherever you are. You take care.